we have a really fun guest for you all today. And this is a guest that Tiffany and I are both meeting for the first time. I found Donna on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's getting a little trash talk right now because of some of the repeated content, but I still use it to find and connect and network with other like minded people all the time. And Donna was one of those individuals. A couple of her posts came up. She shares a lot of connections that I do, and she was talking about AI and enablement, which, as you know, is something Tiffany and I are both very passionate about and excited to bring to you as our audience. So, reached out to Donna, and she was gracious enough to join us today. So, welcome, Donna.
Thank you so much for having me. I really valued the work that you guys are doing as well.
Thank you. Thank you. So, I know a little bit about you. I know you're a recognized leader in sales enablement. You just created the AI sales operating system, which I'm excited to learn about. I know you do a lot of great things with platforms like Microsoft Copilot, so we're excited to dig in there. But if you could just give us, our listener and us, a little bit of your background, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Well, I kind of like that you guys don't know me. So I'm like, oh, they're genuinely interested.
We are.
Let's let's see here. So I have been in sales enablement for over 20 years, and I have had the privilege of working as a consultant. So I've had the privilege of peeking behind the curtains of a lot of great organizations and working with sales leaders and sales enablement leaders, well, various departments, even marketing, and learning like what they do best. So that really I felt like gave me an advantage in what I get to bring to the market. So I also have a technical background. So people will ask, like, how do you do this? And I'm like, I'm just a little nerd. So being a sales consultant for so long and then working with a lot of great leaders has probably afforded me the opportunity to bring a lot of value to organizations.
That's fantastic. I am dying to know. So, Kelly and I were chatting about this last week when we were setting all this up, and I need to know everything about the AI operating system. Like, I'm sure, like most companies, like my day job, like we are in the throes of an AI transformation. All of our tool sets, everything we're trying to leverage from an enablement perspective, we're just pushing ourselves to think AI first and how else could we do this? And so I need to understand what the AI operating system is, please.
Absolutely. I'll tell you how it grew first is as we all know is enablement leaders are often very small departments and so being resourceful is something we have to get really good at. And so for me, thinking about supporting organizations from BDRs to AEs, and when I say AEs, I'm thinking like AEs that are SMB, commercial, enterprise, they're all across the segment as well. And then there's account managers, customer success. So there is this array of support that we have to do. And oftentimes, we are said, it's just told to us, hey, this is what you need to go in and do. And so for me, I wanted to think about how do I support so many people being such a small organization. And that was why I started building AISOS okay, what if I created an agent that could build curriculum for me? And then I could write it, use variables inside those prompts to change it from enterprise to commercial or, to change it from this specific outcome to another outcome. And that is how it started for me is I wanted it to build curriculum for me. The second thing that I did is I wanted to be able to talk with the sales leaders and really speak their language and understanding what growth levers that the organization is driving at that specific time. For me to reverse engineer and start to create content that drives that outcome was super important to me. So with AISOS, it does three things. It is that coaching as if it were a sales leader. And as we all know, is sales leaders are busy or they've never been taught how to educate or how to share knowledge. And oftentimes they'll take over in a meeting. I spoke with a sales leader the other day and he goes, ooh, I'm so guilty of that. And I was like, all of you are because you're good at what you used to do. But as a sales leader, thinking about supporting anywhere between 8 and 12 sales reps at any one given time, it can often be a lot. They're busy themselves. So how do you say, hey, tell me about that one opportunity and where we can double click and help? So that's the first thing that, and we can talk a little bit more about that if you want, but that's the first thing that AISOS was designed to do, is to be that sales coach, arrive when the seller needs it, and be very contextual. The second thing that it was designed to do is actually be the enablement. So a lot of people think about enablement maybe just from an onboarding perspective, but this enablement would be like, oh, there's new product positioning that's coming out. There's a change in our verticals, things like that. So the AISOS can be trained on that information that's needed so that all sellers could get in there and kind of get that information that they need. And then the third thing, which I think has gotten the most attention, is the fact that it does analysis. So, we can take that, we can do a pipeline analysis, gather different fields in Salesforce, and then say, what is this data telling us? Like, what's the reality? And I think that's the post that got the most traction. So the AOS does those three things.
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating to think about there's so many use cases for AI that I think everyone's just like swimming in, but those three like really hit the nail on the head of like what you need to go get accomplished. Like when you think about up leveling and, you're talking to your executives about like how is your enablement program running? Like if you can execute those three things, like that's a huge marker of success. And so to have that as like the core competencies of the operating system, I think is spot on.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I
thank
think
you.
you're also hitting something that all executives, and we've talked about this, Tiffany, boards are looking for right now is how are you making a four-person team operate like you have 8 people using AI? And so the ability to scale your team without additional headcount is a message there that really, I think, really resonates with the executive team and something you can definitely do in that world. One thing that I also saw on a lot of your LinkedIn posts was Microsoft Copilot. And this is actually something I haven't used a ton with a lot of my clients are Google, but I do definitely have some amazing Microsoft clients. And I would love to know, what are you doing with Microsoft Copilot? What does that look like? And do you have like any examples of how customers are using that?
Yeah, I do. Let's see here. So, the whole reason I work with Copilot is most B2B organizations are already using Microsoft. And what you discover is that there's a lot of tool bloat out there. And so, what I mean by that is they think, right? People think that they have to have this software, that software to do things. And what I like to encourage organizations is, hey, let's look to see what the power of Copilot can do first, what the power of building out agents in Copilot can do first. And then if it can't address that, then and only then would you actually go get another third party software. So the second thing with Copilot is also it protects that intellectual property because it's already a part of your system. Teams is recording calls for you, Word documents. Yeah. So you've got your whole Microsoft suite already integrated. So why not take advantage of that? And so when you have those, and this is an example, Kelly, that you were asking, is the post that I wrote about the VP who uploaded a lot of those call recordings. When you have Teams that is recording those calls, it's much easier to put those into Copilot to do that analysis to start to understand what outcome that you're trying to drive. So with Copilot, your question is, what have I done with it? Well, Copilot has two different, I'm going to just call them platforms, so I think they're really instances. And it is Copilot at Microsoft 365, and then there is Copilot Studio. And so just in Copilot 365, you can build out agents, which is where I encourage everyone to start with, because I think that an agent should have one task and get really good at those tasks. So, if you're building out an agent to drive, let's say that you're looking at operational excellence and you're trying to maybe do the call recordings or something, then what you can do is you can teach that agent just to do the analysis of the call recordings, right? And
Hmm.
then you can teach another agent to do the second thing, and then a third agent to do the next thing. And in Microsoft 365, when you build out those agents like that, then when you put them into into Copilot Studio, that's when you come up with the automations. So let's say that there are three agents that are driving that operational excellence. Then when you're in studio, you can start to connect those agents, and then it becomes a trigger that, a sales leader or a sales rep can just run that trigger in order for all those agents to play together. So I hope verbally describing that
Yeah.
makes sense. Okay.
No, it does. It was great information. Speaking of the LinkedIn post, so the one that was most interesting to me, Donna, was the one about this VP of enablement who took all of these calls. Could you just share that story? Really interesting.
So, yeah, with this organization, they had a third party tool they were using to record calls. And one of the things that they were addressing is tool bloat. And so they were thinking, hey, could we do an agent that could actually do better than this third party tool? And so they looked at what their outcomes they were getting with it. And then we built an agent to say, hey, I would really like to get this more information out. And so what they did is that was how the project started. And then in extracting those calls, that is what led them to go, wait a minute. Like they started seeing patterns and understanding like, whoa, like talk time, when the rep started talking about features. And so they started looking at a lot of different patterns. And then it was this conversation of like six of us sitting around talking about how we're doing enablement is completely wrong. How we've been talking about, your do we ever talk about how much a rep speaks versus what a C rep looks like, what an A rep looks like? We'll say things like listen more, but when you actually see the data and you see the A rep not talking as much and really asking such great questions that gets the buyer talking, you're like, that's what we need to double down on. Or, not talking about features until, 17 minutes into the call is a game changer. And so that is how the project started. But the actual aha moment was where we were all like, we're not doing enablement right. This is how we've been thinking about doing it. Hey guys, learn your products. Hey guys, like do this. But yeah. So that is the post that I think everybody was like, wait a minute, we could start using AI agents to get this kind of information
Yeah.
was a big aha.
To that point, one of the things that I've been building internally in my day job, we've been playing around with agents. I'm in a POC right now with a few different solutions, and I started building out a prospect strategist where it takes and I'm still developing it, but it takes the information about the person you're meeting with and the company, and it does a bunch of deep research, and it gives you like a summary of everything. But then what I'm training it on is some of our enablement material to say, what are the open-ended questions you should be asking? How should you be like digging in and doing that discovery? And I think to your point on like, what does an A player look like? The skill that gets them to like not bring up features till 17 minutes in is their ability to ask questions that lends to the prospect actually talking and like giving more information. Like when you boil it back from an enablement perspective, that feels like the skill that we can still hone, and you can build, well, we're testing it, but like trying to build agents that help replicate like what good discovery questions really look like specific to those prospect meetings.
Yeah,
One of the,
brilliant.
one of the biggest gaps I continue to see in a lot of these tools, and it's what you were able to do here, Donna, is compare actual data of how great the reps are. Are they hitting their targets? Are they hitting their quota? What does their
Yeah.
deal velocity look like? And then compare that to things they do in action. I think that's the one thing that I've always felt has been missing from a lot of these tech stack tools is great. It's great to know that
So what?
this percentage of reps are
Yeah.
doing this, but are they my good reps or are they my bad reps? And are they the ones that I think that are they my B players that I think I can make to A players? Or are they reps that actually maybe need to be managed out of the business? So there's just all these different things that missing piece of data, I don't know why it's been so hard to mash that with what they're actually doing in the field, but that is the game changer right there.
Yeah. I love that you said that because when you talk about what, it's been missing is the thing that I'm starting to learn is that these AI agents, the visibility that they can provide based on what we're trying to see and the patterns that they can uncover is so clear. So, downloading a Salesforce report, I'm going to say downloading it just in case people don't have their things, everything
Connected,
connected.
yeah.
because I absolutely started that way. Is, extracting that CSV, uploading it into a really good prompt and telling it, hey, I am a sales enablement leader. And this is the type of visibility that I want to uncover. And I want you to find the patterns so that I can do XYZ with it, so that I can build a curriculum or that I can coach or whatever it is. We can start to upload specific Salesforce reports and get that type of data that the human mind can take a conversation and go down a certain road, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, that's not even where we were going with that. AI agent stays so focused. It's like, this is my job. This is what I'm doing.
Well, and the access to all that information without you having to do like, or you or whoever you supports you from a data perspective, stitching all of it together and saying like, this is related to this person. Like it's the benefit of like the AI component. They can say like, I see, Donna over here in this system and Donna in this system and Donna in this system. So I'm just like, those are all Donna and I can figure that out. Like I don't need you to go into those systems and like relate all of those user records together so that I can download a spreadsheet and pull a pivot table.
Right. Yeah. And then stitching those agents together where you're like, hey, let me get a call summary agent who's going to, you know, understand exactly what the buyer's conversation, what their language is, what their questions are,
Yeah.
what their objections are. Like, hey, let me get an agent to do all of that. And then let's take that. And now we'll start to create an agent that does outreach so that we can say, okay, when we come across this vertical and this persona with this challenge, how do we rinse and repeat that? Because most of these verticals are probably having a lot of the same challenges. So I think it can really set us up for success too once we start threading, like you mentioned, your research agent with that call agent with that prospecting agent, with each of the agents. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious. One of the things that Kelly and I have talked both on the podcast and just like casually over a margarita about is what all of this AI innovation and a lot of what you just described is going to do to the role of the SDR in the future. It feels like the first one that has there's real teeth around that moving agentically. There's some solutions out there that position themselves as having AI SDRs, and that series of agents you just described is arguably a series of SDR tasks that you would otherwise hire someone to go do all of that work for. I'm curious if you have any opinions or insights or where you think that's going from a market perspective from everything you've seen.
Yeah. First of all, I want to say I love that you said margaritas. I'm a tequila girl myself. I
Yep.
have found my people. But to answer your question is, yeah, I do have an opinion. I don't think that I'd be really good at predicting the future, but I'm really clear on what our point is right now. And I am a big believer is that you have to find a model in your organization that does a good split of human element versus
Mm,
AI. And I would say, let's do a 70 split where we're using AI to offload any non-revenue producing task. So when we look at all of our activities that a seller needs to do to convert opportunities, what task can AI offload? And then adding in that human element. I think that if we can start to partner like that with AI versus thinking what it's going to replace is a game changer for everybody getting up and ready.
totally.
And
Yeah.
like I like to use the example of computers. There was a point in time where sellers did not use computers. They went door to door to sell things. Today, there's no way an organization would hire anyone who didn't know how to use a computer. We use our computer for a lot of things, but we also use our human element to do things. And I think AI is just exactly that. We're introducing AI into the workforce, we're not replacing humans. So that's my
Yeah.
take on it.
I love that example. I was actually talking to an organization the other day. So to back up, I did door to door. It was hospital doors, but,
Wow.
and we had computers. I mean, this was 2007, I guess. I'm aging myself. We still, to differentiate ourselves, would travel and knock on the CEO of hospitals' doors to get initial meetings. But I was talking to an organization the other day, and I kind of figured that was done. You didn't do that. But I was talking to an organization that said, we've adopted AI. We're using AI for a lot of our prospecting. But the one thing we also do is we still do door to door knocking. We still get out in our cars, drive to differentiate ourselves. And I kind of loved it. It's exactly what you said, Donna. All the things that they could operationalize and use via AI, they are, but they still want that human aspect and they wanted to differentiate. So they still are sending their teams out door to door to knock on doors. And I was like, that's the best of both worlds. You're using humans for what you absolutely have to use humans for, but then you're taking all of that other workload off of them. I thought it was great.
Yes. Yeah. I think we got to be smart with it. And there just seems to be this conversation around replacing. And I'm like, pump the pump the brakes, baby girl.
We're
Let's do
augmented,
one
yes.
thing. Yeah. It may happen one day, but yeah, I think organizations need to think about how to play in the same sandbox. I'll share is that at the beginning of this year, I stood on stage and I said, by the end of the year, every sales leader, or I'm sorry, every sales rep in this room will be using AI agents to do some of your work. And then I asked, how many of you know what an AI agent is? And of course it was like, "Mm, no." And so I explained it. And then I said, you guys, by the end of 2026, every department head in this room, you will be managing both humans and agents. Get ready.
Yes. Yeah. No, I spoke at Dreamforce last year, and that was one of the things that I said is that we are we are on the cusp of having an ops role whose job it is to manage agents. Like you will hire someone who just needs to make sure that all of your agents aren't hallucinating and that they're working off of the same data sources. And if you're using a Copilot in this system and something custom built here. And yeah, we're, like I said, we're doing this this proof of concept right now. I'm building out agents at my day job. And I do not have that role. So I'm gonna gift that to someone on my team as we roll this out. But yeah, I do think that is 100% going to be the truth sooner rather than later.
Oh, you're
So
speaking
on
my
that
language.
note, so Donna, I've been talking to a lot of, we're both enablement professionals, obviously. I've been speaking to a lot of enablement professionals, and there's definitely some fear, as there is with all roles right now around AI. How do you see the skills required for sales enablement to change in the next 3 to 5 years? So, if you're talking to someone in enablement and they want to future proof their career, what skills should they be focusing on over the next 3 to 5 years?
Good question. Let's see here. I don't think that way. I don't I hope this is okay for me to say is like I don't think out of fear. I think that the workforce is changing. And so for me, it's like like when I built AISOS, somebody said to me, you're kind of working yourself out of a job. And I was like, good, because I'm going to be the first to bring it to market. I don't know how it's going to change, but I would say the core thing for anyone in this space is starting with the analysis it goes back to what you had said about getting a seat at the table. And I think that if we can understand why, let's see here, how do I say this? Is if we're the ones who can interpret the data to recognize patterns and then say, hey, this is how it's going to impact the business issue that the organization is driving, I think that that's our power play. Um, Eh, yeah, that's how I guess I think about it.
Yeah,
I love it.
I love it too. I think that we have to I mean, I run an entire go-to-market ops organization, and so it's hitting me on your traditional rev ops teams are feeling some of the pressure of AI in addition to enablement. And for me, two things that like we've had active conversations about internally and that I've talked to other people about in the space is one, AI needs to remove the things that are never going to be a bullet point on your resume. Like if you're not proud of doing all of XYZ work, like that should be the things that you're thinking about like offloading to AI so you can add more bullets to your resume and your trajectory of what you've been able to work on. But then I think just hearing you talk about that, I think the other thing that's important to hone in on is like we have teams, we pay people to drive outcomes. Outcomes are ultimately what the business wants. Sales wants an outcome of they want to be successful. They want to make money. Like there's an outcome that we're helping support. I didn't hire someone to necessarily do all of the work in the same way just to get to that outcome. I want my onboarding team to onboard my sellers as fast as possible so that they make money as fast as possible. Like that's what they want as individuals. And so I think if we can pivot to thinking about like the skills you need to get the outcome, and that those skills can evolve, but you're still oriented maybe on that ultimate outcome that you've always served, is a helpful way to potentially like help people through that. Because there are people are I appreciate that you're not coming from a place of fear, and I also am very excited about all things AI all the time, but I do stumble a lot around a lot of conversations where it is scary for people. It feels like a threat
Yeah.
to their job.
Yeah, I do get that. I really do. And I just want to, I guess, share is that, you know, change is inevitable. And I'm hoping people, embrace it versus because it's not going to go away. And so it's like, okay, be the first to market, be the person who's talking about it in your organization, be the one who's bringing in that data to say, hey, the growth levers that this organization is pulling is around creating operational excellence. So we're trying to do more with less. So I believe that, by using AI agents to do X, Y, and Z, here's the metrics here's the benchmark, here's our current state. And I believe by testing and iterating these agents, that this is the outcome that we could drive. And therefore, I would like to start testing one agent. Be that advocate because somebody has to be the advocate in the organization. And yeah. And do everything you can to learn how to do that, how to build those.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Now's the moment. This is the leading edge moment, the crossing the chasm where you get to be the pioneer of something exciting.
So
Exactly.
with
Yeah.
that, we are getting close to the end of our episode, and we have one question we like to ask every guest, Donna. And the question is for you to ask a question of our audience. So, as a listener, what is something they should go and think about later today on their commute home while they're making dinner that will help them create their own point of view around AI? What question can they ponder?
Yeah. I love this question because I'd say the number one thing that they should ask is that and we'll just say, in a department of being in sales enablement, how are you no longer just supporting a department? How are you no longer just supporting sales, but how are you supporting the organization as a whole? So it doesn't matter whether or not you're in sales ops or you're in marketing. If we could get out of these silos and start to think strategically about how we're all driving the business initiative of the organization, I think that can be a game changer. So I would encourage everybody to think about how are you supporting the organization as a whole?
That's great. I love that. I've taken
I
lots.
think that's so important.
Yeah.
We talk about silos, and obviously, Donna, you've seen our website. We talk a lot about earning a seat at the table. And I think in all go to market roles, there is no individual teams. It's a team sport. And so if you can think about how you're supporting the organization as a whole, it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the most powerful thing is when you can, and it's hard to do, like to get to that, like that truly connected experience where everyone's, on the same page. And it's not some magical thing that happens that some executive like blesses everyone with some synergies that they all work together. Like, I love that question because it has to come from everyone, has to be thinking holistically for it to happen.
Yeah, I think you could start building, agents even better. For me, I am constantly finding time to talk with our marketing. I want to know how they're thinking, what they're challenged with. I want to talk to sales ops leaders. I want to talk to product. I want to talk to everybody. I think sales enablement is the hub of a wheel, and we're the one that brings it all together. And I think there's no better time than right now to use AI to actually be the one to bring all that together. So
Yeah. I
I'd
love
love to change the name sales enablement to revenue enablement. Like, let's get away from the
I think we're
department.
close. I think we're close.
I think we are
my
too.
my team's name. If you're listening, enablement team they are revenue enablement in my
I
organization.
noticed that.
They are the revenue enablement team. Yeah. I'm
And I
100%
love this
aligned.
podcast name.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Donna, for the time today.
Yeah.
I think I can talk about AI forever. I think that's how we have a podcast because we just talk about AI somehow in some format in every conversation. No, this was wonderful. And it was so great to get to meet you and learn about the AISOS.
I
Yeah.
really genuinely appreciate the time. And I think I said to you guys at the beginning is that I told my husband, I said, I just need to find my people and who could nerd out on this with me. So I will absolutely say, like, you guys are my people. I really love the questions that you asked and that, allowing me that opportunity to share my passions. So thank you so much.
No, this was amazing. I'm glad that you are now part of the Revenue Insiders family.
Yeah.
Me too.
And anyone listening, follow us on all of the social media platforms. We've been pushing some TikToks out recently, so
Gosh, ooh,
we're even on the
we have.
cool ones. We're trying, but if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please rate us, and we will share Donna's LinkedIn profile when we get this episode posted, so you can follow her as well for more insights on AI and AI SOS.
Thanks, everyone.